Hi, everyone.
Hey, Dr. Timmer.
How's it going? I don't know if y'all saw this, but I guess it's automatically recording. Did it give you that notification? Did you, some of you saw, okay. Just want to make sure it's, okay. Yep, looks like it's working. Good to see y'all. We'll get started in just a minute. Give folks a chance to pop on. Hey, Dr. Clemens. Long time no
Hello, how are
see.
you?
I enjoyed my cupcake. Thank you again. It's delicious.
There were so many people coming to my office when they learned there was cupcakes in the wild.
I would imagine so.
It's how you make friends in life.
Like a
Cupcakes.
moth to a flame. I don't know if you saw Dr. Clemens, but the meeting all automatically started recording, so we don't need to start it ourselves.
So our cupcake talk is there. It's great.
Okay, that will be on the exam, everyone. It was a strawberry cupcake. Those are bonus points for everyone who attends and or watches later.
Dr. Timmer, do you know how many people RSVP'd? How many we can expect?
I don't. Well, maybe. Can I see that? Let me see if I can figure it out.
We could probably see how many people accepted.
Yeah, let me look. I don't know. Maybe if I look on my phone.
I see it. It looks like it's a pretty substantial group, but I think because we're recording in the interest of the time,
Yeah,
we could
because I
start.
think, and partly also because I think people probably, some people may have accepted even knowing if they wouldn't be able to be here, just to ensure that they got, you know, any updates. So I think we're good to get started to be respectful of everyone's time.
Absolutely. So do you want to kick us off and then I'll start up the presentation?
Sure. Um, so good to see you all. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I hope you all had a great summer or rest of your summer. Some of you I saw just a month or two ago, and some of you it was a little bit longer, but it's great to be
Hello.
here with everybody. And
Yes, this is she.
oh, you know what? Do I have the power to mute
Good.
people?
How are
Because
you?
I love muting. If everyone can mute themselves, unless you have where's the people thing? Um, did you just mute everyone?
Okay.
I
I'm a
didn't.
big mute all. Mute all.
Let me check. Hold on 1 second.
It sounds like Jen
Okay.
to me.
I think I muted everyone. Uh, I could not tell and I couldn't see a box. Anyway, so what we are going to do today is to just kind of go through a brief review of the components, the main sections of the comprehensive exam, which, as you all know, is on Saturday, September 20th. You should have gotten an email from Ann Rodriguez about making sure that you're properly registered for that. And so make sure you follow all those instructions, follow up with any questions. But so that's the date that we've set. So that's about 2.5 weeks from now. The information that we're going to go over today likely should not really be new to anybody, but we just kind of want to go over what we've talked about in the past and refresh everyone's memories about what the expectations are for the exam. We will start with the research portion and then move into the quantitative statistics portion. And then hopefully we should have plenty of time for questions. And so this will be an opportunity to ask any questions that you've been wondering about. Also, because I will have all of you in class either this weekend or next weekend, we will be doing a review activity similar to kind of some of the stuff we've done before, but we will have some dedicated time in class as well. So ask any questions that you have tonight, but also know that you'll have more opportunities during set aside during our class time for additional questions that come up in between now and then. Other than that, though, this is not something where we provide like one-on-one tutoring support in advance. You have all the information, all the content, you've already learned it in your courses. And so this is just your opportunity to show us what you know and show us everything you've learned and everything you've been thinking about and show us that you're ready to take on the dissertation. Right. And so so this is your opportunity as a collective to make sure that everyone's on the same page and you have a good sense of the expectations. So that all that being said, unless I missed anything else, and even if I did, you can take it off, Dr. Clemens, and then I'll start talk about the research portion and kind of overall the exam logistics, and then I will jump in with the statistics portion.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Timmer. So it's nice to see you all. Today I'm going to talk a little about the exams in general, and then I'm going to talk specifically about the research design portion of the comprehensive exam. So the first thing, just in terms of FAQs for the comprehensive exam, make sure you're saving your file. Email it to Anne before the deadline. The one thing I wanted to note, because we saw this last year, is sometimes now email software you'll send it, and then because they have these recall features, it won't go to the person right away. So if you send it at 5:59, Outlook might hold it till 6:02 in case you want to recall it, and that means it doesn't end in Anne's inbox until whatever time. Give yourself 5 minutes, more than 5 minutes, but don't just wait till the very end. So one of the questions is always students wonder, how long does it take? You don't need to fill the entire day. If you feel like you've met the demands of either of the assignments, the stats portion or the research design portion, move forward and go to the next one. Related to that, think about the entire day. Sort of divide the day, make sure where we see it go wrong. Some of the pitfalls we'll talk about in a second, but some of the pitfalls broadly is that people will spend the majority of day one question and they won't go to the next, and then they realize, oh, I have an hour left, and then they rush. So thinking about time management is important, and also just make sure do not wait to the very, very, very late or last minute. Similarly, So this is an open book and open note exam. You can use anything you have from your courses. The one caveat is do not use the internet. And so when this goes out, I believe there's still a plagiarism pledge in the application. Um, the promise that we expect from you is that you've had, as Dr. Timmer noted, you've had the training in your courses. This is a show what you know moment. What we don't want you to do is go to the internet, and specifically, it's becoming more and more important now. Don't use AI. Do not use ChatGPT or Gemini. That would be an automatic failure. The next part to that is don't share writing. I know you all have cohorts. A lot of times you'll have WhatsApp or whatever text. Once this goes out, do not communicate with your other cohort members or any other students. This is a you thing. You trust that you've been trained in these classes and you're prepared. We all think you're prepared. So do not do that. And then the last thing, I say this over and over in my classes as well, read the instructions twice, 3 times. So common pitfalls. This is the research. Now I'm transitioning specifically to the research design section. This is what we're asking you to do is to come up with a proposed study. You're designing a research study. What we do not expect is you to be an expert on the topic. So we're not going to talk about the specific questions you're going to get in the mail today or in the email today, but note that there's going to be some suggested topics. The expectation is not that you've done a 40-page literature review, and that's going to inform your response. So we recognize that. The focus really is on the research design element. And the important part of your response is that you can clearly articulate the research study that you're being tasked to. So another one is that common pitfalls. There's 2 parts I mentioned before is not reading and replying to the prompts or only replying to 3 of the 4. The other one is alignment. You all heard a lot of talk to me this summer, too much, some of you, about this research designs and sort of a pretty through line across each part of a parsimonious pretty thing for all elements of your study. So it needs to connect. So we'll see where that comes into play in a second, but if it's a qualitative study, you shouldn't have quantitative data analysis techniques, right? So you shouldn't be mix and matching. Everything should be logical and connected from problem statement, RQs, and research design. So the first step in this, you'll see it when you get the prompts, your first task is to start with the problem statement. Essentially, so you have these hypothetical situations. What is the dilemma? How do you envision adequately examining and analyzing the problem? How have other people answered or addressed this problem? This is a big picture thing. These map on to what you're going to be tasked with in the future and what we've discussed in the past. This is your chapter 1. Right? Like, why does this study need to exist? So what is the dilemma? How do you envision adequately examining it and analyzing it? And what have other people answered or addressed? Now, with that one, you might say, well, Dr. Clemens, I thought you said we don't need to be experts in this specific topic. These are close enough to you through your courses that you're going to have a response to that last part. How have other people addressed or answered this question or problem? The next one is after you have the problem statement, ask yourself, is it researchable? So I'll read this. Research is a disciplined attempt to address questions or solve problems through collection and analysis of primary data for the purpose of description, explanation, generalization, and prediction. So that is a quant-focused quote. We should say that because not all research generalizes. But the point is, we want studies that you can conduct. Right? So that's another pitfall we see where you come up with the design that you couldn't actually enact. So can I solve my problem statement? If no, think about another problem statement. If yes, how will I attempt to do this? What does the process look like? And then you formulate your research questions. So everything flows from the research questions. We have this little cartoon. I'll give you a second to look at it. You have 3 choices when thinking about this and when thinking about your research design. And my inclination was then to call out, I can see Tim to tell me the 3 methodologies, but I'm not going to do it. This is not what this is about. Qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods. So whatever you choose, again, through line throughout each one of these prompts in the research design, everything fits together. And the other one is you have to rationalize why is this methodology or these methods the best choice, whether it's quant, qual, or mixed methods. Criteria for selecting research design. Um, Quantitative, again, this is where you've had the experience in your courses. You've been in this, you know the answers to these questions. So if it's quantitative, explanation or theory testing. Qualitative, it's exploratory or understanding. And then if you feel like it says one approach is inadequate, or I'd say a study would benefit from both, then it is mixed methods. So you're combining these different methodologies, and the argument is that this study could only be accomplished by these multiple views of this research question. So again, I repeated, I said it earlier, but I'll repeat it again. Everything flows from the research question. So just remember your training and how do I develop a research question in intermediate statistics? How did we develop these open-ended research questions in qualitative research? Next section I want to talk about, and I'm wrapping up, basic components of a successful response. So there are 4 parts to this exam. The first one is the problem statement. We've talked about that. The second one are the research questions. So we have here an example of, this is sort of a prompt that could potentially be on the research design question that goes out. It is not, but it's an example. So topic is student housing and its effect on and student achievement. And so what we've given you here are 2 examples, a quantitative version and a qualitative version. So the quantitative version would be, what is the relationship between student housing and reading scores on the 4th grade NJ state reading assessment? So one thing's impacting the other. The qualitative one, what are teachers' perceptions of how housing impacts student achievement in 4th grade reading? So that one's much more open-ended. You're interested in exploring and understanding. So these are the things you need to think about when you get the email in the morning and you have these possible topics to explore and design a study around. Think about, like, what is the angle I want to look at it from, or what is the lens I want to look at it from? Am I doing a quantitative study? Am I doing qualitative or mixed? And is that the best approach to address this issue? Next is a coherent research plan and appropriate methods of data collection. And obviously, this is impacted. It flows from the research questions. This is impacted from what methodologies you choose. So if you choose a qualitative study, it's going to look very different than a quantitative. Similarly, a mixed method adopts approaches from or methods from both. So thinking about the research plan, remember what I said, a lot of times where we see the missteps and students do well on our comps, but these are, like, over the time, this is what we've seen, is that there's not a clear alignment from the research question to the study design. So thinking about, if it's quant, this needs to be quant as well. And then the last one, the 4th, is data analysis. And similarly, it all has to connect together. And you need to articulate your plan for organizing and analyzing your data, specify how your approach will address your research question. So you're going to talk about the stages of analysis, and then you're going to discuss if you're using statistical models, or quantitative, what statistical models. If you're using qualitative, you're going to talk about what that process looks like. A lot of times in our classes, you'll talk about 2-cycle coding or coding process. So that's the data analysis portion. How will you analyze the data? So that's a very quick overview of the research design section of the comprehensive exam. What questions do you have for me? Jennifer, I'm sharing. I can probably stop sharing so I can see everybody. Ryan, I see your hands up.
Yeah, and I think you can, any like initial questions right now, great that we already have hands. And then if you have questions about this section that pop up later as you're thinking, we can answer more of those at the end too.
Absolutely. Thanks for noting that. Yeah, Ryan?
Yeah, 2 questions. Is there going to be one topic, or are there going to be multiple topics to choose from for this section? And can we do qualitative or quantitative, or does it have to be qualitative? And I'm only asking that because the other section is like more of the statistics analysis portion. So if you just did quantitative, then you'd be doing all quantitative and not showing like the ability to do both.
Yeah, so you'll have a menu of options to pick from. So, and then based on those topics, some of them you may read and immediately think, I think a quantitative design is best served for this topic. Or you can choose In this way, the design, I think a lot, and Dr. Timmery, correct me if I'm wrong, I think probably people lean more towards what they're planning on doing when they design these studies. You
Right.
have the option. You could do of any of the three, qual, quant, or mixed. As someone who reviewed the questions, there's some of them where I think you naturally lead or they lend themselves to one approach. So when you see those prompts, it's the combination of what is the best approach for this? And then also in looking at the various options you have, thinking about what you're most comfortable too. So we try to give you that option there where if you're quant focused, we don't want you to be uncomfortable with the exam. The task is to design a rigorous quality study. Whatever methodology you choose, that is up to you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Did you have a question, Meryl, or did it get answered?
It was similar to Ryan, so I put
Okay.
my hand down. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Just wanted to make sure.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Timmer.
Okay. Let me share. And then adjust. It always takes me a second with all the different windows. Okay, can y'all, oh, wait, I lost everybody. Hang on, get you back. Okay, can you all see the, nope, you can't see anything. Can you see it?
We can see it.
Okay, good. Okay, sorry, somebody chose right this moment to buzz me. Okay, so in terms of the statistics proportion, there are two main components of the statistics part of the exam. And basically the first part focuses on quantitative research design. And then the second part focuses on quantitative interpretation. So because of the way we have it broken down, that means the exam does not involve performing any statistical analyses. It's kind of the before and the after. And so it's thinking again about design and then interpretation. And so then because of that, that means you don't need to worry about SPSS, Stata, any other statistical software you may have been using in your classes. I think we've all only been using Stata, but you don't need to you plan to use any Stata or anything for this. You can think of it more as what you would be thinking through as when you're reading a quantitative research study, like from a peer-reviewed journal. So those are kind of the two main parts, and they are separate and distinct. So they don't have anything to do with each other. They'll be about two different topics. And so they're two distinct sections. So in terms of the quantitative research design section, if we think about quantitative methods and kind of what it's all about, it assumes that important parts of the world are objective so that we all kind of share the same reality, which can seem a little abstract. But really what that means is that we can take measurements of these characteristics and represent them numerically, right? So we can use inches or centimeters to determine someone's height. And that's a meaningful number that we would all agree, like, yes, that person is 5 feet 6 inches, or that person is 300 centimeters. I have no idea how tall that is. So maybe that's not a real height. Or you could count the number of students within a school and say, this is what the enrollment is, right? And so then that variable of enrollment has a meaning and it's objective and we can all kind of understand what those things mean. So then once we have these different variables, we can use these quantitative methods to examine the relationships between these variables with a large number of data points with a pretty high degree of precision. So this is where it really differs from qualitative work, right? Where the idea is not to look at huge numbers, but is to look more deeply at smaller numbers. And so here we're wanting to see what are these relationships, what can we gather from a large number of data points. And as we've all talked about, these statistical quantitative methods give us tools to talk about uncertainty, right? When we make these decisions about how to measure things and when we think about how variables are measured and what's included, one of the things we're always thinking about is there something I would do differently, how I would refine it? And that's going to kind of come in a moment when we get towards the thinking about the interpretation. So when we are employing these methods, the research questions we use are based on a conceptual model of the world. And so we talk about, you can have something like a regression model, but it's really, it's going to be, your model is going to align with the research question you're asking. In both sections of the quantitative section of the exam, you don't need to come up with a research question. That's what you'll do in the part Dr. Clemens was talking about. In this portion, the research question will be provided, and then you'll be asked questions about what methods or what models align with this research question. And so then we express those models using our independent and dependent variables, right, which will be clear in the research question. And so for you, you want to pick out, okay, so based on this research question, what does this researcher have in mind? What's their dependent variable? What independent variables might they be considering? And so then depending on whatever variables are identified in the research questions, you might construct your models in different ways. Right. And so this is where we get to our first step. And I know y'all hear me harp on it all the time, but we always have to start with what are our variables? How are they defined? And how are they measured? So we're thinking about, are they categorical or continuous? If we think about something in like enrollment, is it the number of students in the school, or is it small, medium, and large? Right. And so we want to look at our variables carefully and make those determinations. Is it categorical or continuous? If it's categorical, what are those categories? If it's continuous, you can be thinking about what's the range here? What might I expect to see, right? But just give yourself a moment first to look at those variables. It can seem like a simple step to skip, but you're going to want to make sure you spend some time making sure you're really clear on that. Then once you have your variables identified, then you're thinking about, again, modeling that relationship. So what are your independent variables, your dependent variables, and how in terms of the research question, how should those line up? And then you want to start thinking about, okay, what's kind of the theory of action here? Like, what are the mechanisms of play? Why might I think that school size would be related to achievement? What might be happening there? Maybe bigger schools have higher achievement because they're able to offer more supports for students, or maybe smaller schools have higher achievement because they're able to have more one-on-one, focused, right? So there's no, when you're thinking about these theories of actions, you want to be thinking about what's logical, what can I kind of justify and support, but it doesn't need to be like to what Dr. Clemens was saying before, it doesn't need to be that you know the literature or that you're referencing any particular studies. It just needs to be a logical, what might be the connections? Why might a researcher be interested in thinking about this? And then the other part of this is you'll be identifying the appropriate statistical model and test. So thinking about the statistical tests that we used in class, the only ones that you would be expected to know are the first two we started with, t-tests and correlation, and then thinking about simple linear regression and multiple linear regression. So those are the 4 types of tests that you want to make sure you're clear on, and that you know, when do you use each of those? What kinds of variables? How would they be measured? And then, what are the circumstances? And so you'd want to be able to read that research question, identify the variables that are in there, how they're measured and defined, what's the appropriate model and test that you would run from there. So much like you're going to see in that research portion of the exam, really, and I know we all talk about this all the time too, it's alignment, right? Everything's going to be aligned. And so you'll see your job here is to understand show that you understand that research design and how that how it would make sense to put the model and the appropriate tests moving forward. So then we skip the actual analysis. And in part 2, again, separate from part 1 of the statistics portion, unrelated, different topic. But so here you're going to be provided again with a research question, the relevant variables, everything's going to be defined for you. But now you're going to be presented with results. So a table of results like you would see in a journal article, and of a multiple regression model. And you're going to interpret it. So things to think about that we've done together in class, right? So first, we always start, what's our overall model fit, which is that R squared value that we use to tell us just in general, to what extent do the independent variables in this model account for variation within our dependent model or a dependent variable or outcome, right? So that's our overall. It's important to report, but then we want to get into the good stuff, right? And this is where we're going to look at our coefficients. And remember those coefficients, you might have also seen terms like betas, difference, especially for categorical variables. So here we're thinking about what is the relationship between a given independent variable and that outcome of interest. And so, like I just told you, I kind of gave this away. It's going to be a multiple regression model. So we want to remember that we're always going to be when we look at the relationship between one independent variable and the dependent variable, it's going to be controlling for, right, the other variables in the model. And so, thinking about if we're holding those constant and we're just looking at the variation and the differences amongst this one independent predictor, that's what we're thinking about with our coefficients. So you're going to want to make sure that you're ready to interpret coefficients for both continuous and categorical variables. And I can tell you now, you're going to have to do both. I promise. And so then beyond interpreting it and reporting it, right, we also need to report whether or not it's statistically significant. And we know how to do that using our p-value. Like we talked about in class, it's going to be a p-value of 0.05 is the threshold we're using. So you're not going to see any surprises there. It's going to be the same thing we've been using all along the way. And so you'll be able to interpret whether or not each of those coefficients is statistically significant. And then you'll give us an overall final interpretation. And remember, like I always say, focus on the research question. This is the place to remember what are the main independent and dependent variables identified in the research question and answer that question. Don't find yourself wandering around to the other covariates if they aren't central to the research question. That's one of the pitfalls where somebody will have a really nice answer to the research question and then they keep going and they say something wrong, right? And so if you have even just one error in your coefficient, then all of a sudden you're providing an incorrect interpretation, right? And so just answer the research question and stop. And this goes back to also what Dr. Clemens said, read the instructions. And I think we'll get to this. I have another note about answering what's asked. But so after you've interpreted the model, then this is your opportunity to show that you can think about how to make sense of it. And so we have a couple different ways that we do this. So we're going to think about make meaning of these results. So you see these results. Why might that be the case? Why might it be that schools with higher enrollment had higher achievement? What are things that might explain that? Again, you want to stay focused on the research question. But you'll want to, once you report your results, you want to make some meaning. Again, you don't need to be citing anything here. This is not based on literature in that sense. It's just based on your own personal expertise. So other ways that we think about the discussion, of course, we don't just do one study and think that we've answered a research question, right? And so think about how other studies, maybe with different methods, maybe with different data, could help you continue to answer these questions more conclusively. Again, stay focused. I know I say this all the time. Stay focused on the research question. If the research question is about enrollment and achievement, and you see that there's a difference in gender by gender and achievement, okay, but that's not the research question. So don't start going on about how we need to, look at our boys and girls here. We need to focus on school size, right? Which was what the research question was about. But you don't have to just focus on quantitative studies here. You can absolutely propose that, I'd love to interview 20 teachers to find out what they think about this. And so you'll want to think about future research and what would be appropriate. And the other part of this then is, even though we acknowledge that we still might have more questions and more to learn, we probably did learn something from this study. And from what we've learned, how would you make meaning of that? And how would you think about how that might be relevant for practitioners? That could be teachers, counselors, principals, superintendents, whoever you think it might apply to. And then also separately thinking about our policymakers. If you're a policymaker, or if you're talking to a policymaker, how would you want them to think about these results and this evidence to support a new initiative, or to stop an initiative, or to whatever it might be? And so you'll do this in your dissertations as well, thinking about these various audiences. And so this is an opportunity to show that you're kind of thinking about, why do we do research? We do it to communicate and to learn and to think about how it can help our students and our educators. So again, answer the questions clearly and concisely, provide appropriate detail, and then, but like that concisely part matters. I know that some of y'all like to feel like you haven't answered it and you want to keep going. This is not the time to feel like you need to answer it 3 times. Just say it and be done with it. And but like by providing appropriate detail, that does mean like, if you're saying something is statistically significant, tell us how you know that. Tell us it's because the p-value is 0.02, which is less than 0.05. If you say that there's a relationship, tell us what it is and how you know that. Tell us what the coefficient is, right? So you have lots and lots of examples in the slides from our classes. And again, we'll do another activity looking at it, but think about like, what is the appropriate detail that shows that where you got your answer. And when you're doing that, again, use precise language. Don't round, make sure you're using the right terms. Again, you have lots of examples of the terminology. Follow the formatting guidelines. Is Greg here? This is especially for Greg, although, because Greg likes to change my homework formats. His group knows this. Don't mess with the formatting. You'll see questions and then a little box, and you'll type in the box, and like the box will expand to, accommodate your response. And all these instructions are written on it, but like, don't mess with it. Don't change the font around. Don't just send it like it is. It makes it hard as a reviewer to figure out what you're doing if you like delete questions, or if you move things around, or if you're not putting things in the right boxes. And so you want to make it easy on the reviewer to know that, so that we can see what you're doing. And again, just be sure to answer the questions that are asked. Don't kind of wander around and start answering something that is not what the question is actually asking. So when Dr. Clemens said, read the instructions 3 times, like this is like, apply that here as well, and make sure again that you're just precise and clear and concise. Again, just to reiterate, in terms of your course materials, any notes you have, anything that's posted like on our course Canvas sites, you should still have access. So when we say no internet, we don't mean no Canvas. You can go on Canvas, but you can also download stuff now. I mean, or print stuff out. I mean, do whatever. But like, if it's something that we provided, that material is allowed during the exam. Any required recommended readings, but to Dr. Clemens's point, no internet resources are allowed. And honestly, they're not going to help you. They're only going to make it worse. Like, we can tell, I'm sure y'all see this with your students as well. Like, you can tell when folks are relying a little too heavily on something that's AI, and it's not as good. Like, follow the content that we've given you, and trust that you know what you're doing from the work, the homeworks and the projects and such that you already did. And so my biggest advice is just prepare in advance and really organize your resources. Think about, what is it that you turn to when you are doing that homework assignment, or what did you turn to when you were working on your final projects, and whatever those materials were, have those in your hands and have them organized. Add little tabs, or whatever your system is, whatever works for you. If you think about, like, sometimes when somebody will have an in-class exam and they allow you to bring like a sheet of paper where you're allowed to make yourself like a cheat sheet, do that for yourself and have that as an extra resource. So you've already identified what are the most important resources that I want to make sure I have on hand, and just be organized so that in the moment you're not like sitting there like, oh wait, how do I interpret R²? Where do I find that material? Like, you want to just know where to turn to find it. And so that's kind of my my last big piece of advice. And I will stop sharing. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention is that we will make all of these slides available to y'all. I don't know how to do this. So we'll make sure that you have these materials as well. What questions do we have? I think Ryan, I think your hand is still up from before, yeah? Just making sure. I mean, feel free to ask another question. But...
I left it up, but I do have another question.
Okay.
I think you talked about it a little bit, and I just might have missed it. But in terms of like defining and measuring the variables, you gave an example with like the schools or something. I missed that. I was just wondering if you could circle back to that.
Yeah, so in both sections, you'll be provided with research questions that are relevant to the task at hand. And in each case, all the relevant variables will be listed and explained for you. So
Mhm.
if you see something like, if the research question's about enrollment, it'll have a bulleted list and you'll be able to see enrollment and how it's defined. So is enrollment defined by the number of students in the school? In which case you would say, okay, then that's a continuous measure of enrollment. Or is it defined as large, medium, or small? In which case you would say, okay, so that's a categorical way of thinking about enrollment. And so that's going to have implications, right, for how you move forward with your analyses and interpretations. So you don't need to define any. It'll
Okay.
be they'll be listed there for you.
Right, but then we need to consider how you guys have explained it to us when we go and discuss what type of variables and what type of tests we're going to be using.
Yep.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, Suzanne? Oh, you're muted still.
Sorry.
There you go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, quick question about citing sources. Will we, like, for example, if we have a textbook and it's on leadership and I want to quote this, or I want to, quote Dr. Tinkin's book or something like that, or take information from that, how should we deal with that in this exam?
You want to take this, Dr. Comments? Or I can. Or I'll give what I would say, and then you can see if you want to add or disagree. I would say, if you use anything, you definitely need to cite it. Like if you're quoting, for sure, like you would need to cite it. Yeah. And so if they're like course material, like you don't need to cite like my notes if you're like, here's what R squared means. But if you're using something that's like a direct quote that you want to use that's from your course materials, then just do a basic citation and make sure you have your reference list. Is that how you would answer, Dr. Clemens?
Happy for the APA and writing formatting question. It always makes me happy.
Always.
Yeah, I would just do it like you do any other APA paper. In the research design, it certainly lends itself to that. Just do a page break and references and do it like you normally would. APA 7.
Yeah, Tim?
So maybe I hope I didn't miss it. So the test is kind of broken up into 3 parts. First part is where you have to identify what kind of research based on the proposal, and there's 2 parts for quantitative research. Is that correct?
Yes, but I would say the
I know it's
two parts,
loosely,
they're not like equally
based on
like the 2 parts for the stats
Right.
part they're not like the same size as the
Sure.
research part.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Got it.
And like all
But-
of this is designed like it's not designed to be a 9-hour test.
Right.
That's just how long you have.
Right. And so
Right.
the reason I asked this was because I know Dr. Clemens was mentoring at the beginning of the proposal, like depending on how you read it, and I guess maybe there's some options, potentially this could be an all quantitative research, because if that first part, if you identify as a quantitative and the last 2 part is also quantitative, you may not have to do anything with quality, not that you wouldn't want to, right, Dr. Clement?
May
But
not get to.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know
that's
what you're
correct.
trying to imply here, Tim.
He's picking up what you're putting down.
I would frame it slightly different though, Tim, in terms of just sort of understanding what this is. The comprehensive exam is a 2-part exam. The first part is the research design. The second part is the statistics portion. Within each one of those, there are certain requirements in them. So that's how I break it down. But what you said is also right.
Got it. Okay. I just wanted to double check.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason?
I'm sorry, I'm on my work computer, so I'm having issues with my video. I apologize.
You're good.
Good to see everybody. I'm just wondering now that Suzanne asked a question about citing sources. Are we expected that we should be citing? Like, is it typical to have some type of a lengthy reference section rather on the first half, or is that just really dependent upon how many other things we're citing and quoting versus just using our knowledge from the coursework? I guess I just want to know, should I be preparing, to have a lot to cite for the day of the exam?
Uh, Jason, with that one, what I would say is remember what we talked about, like answering the prompts. That is your
Yep.
task. So
Yep.
whatever the questions are asking you to do, that's what you do. Some sections, specifically for research design, may lend themselves to citing things that you've read in class. So, for example, I'm thinking about for students who had me in the summer for qual, we talked about Saldana and data analysis. It's natural that during that data analysis section, maybe you want to cite that book or some other book. However, not all of these sections, and many of these sections, do you need to cite things, right? Like this is very much following what the prompts are asking you to do. If it naturally lends itself to that, yes, please do. But do not expend extra energy just putting things in there. Like Dr. Timmer said, if it's not in the prompt, don't feel the need to just throw Spillane at us over and over about distributed leadership. It has to work for the prompt.
Thanks.
Did that help, Jason?
Yeah, I just want to know how much I should be preparing in advance to have things that I specifically want to cite, but I think you answered the question. I just know I'll take it as it comes. And if, again, I have something in the course materials that I feel like are relevant or something I read that's relevant, I'll just kind of do it organically.
I think to the point that maybe Dr. Miller made earlier, like oftentimes people, if they have a pretty good sense of what kinds of methods they want to use for their dissertation, they will take this as an opportunity to kind of practice writing about a proposed study that would use those methods. And in that sense, if you're like, there's a particular, person who does interview work. Sorry, I shouldn't use an example that I don't know about, but like, and you're like, you're like, this is the person who is like, this is how you do interviews. And you're already making notes for that, for your own research. And so then you want to cite them, like, you can totally use this as an opportunity to be thinking about, how do I put together a proposal, right? That's what this is, right? How do I put together a proposal? And you're all going to have to do this in the next several months. And so to the extent that you have a sense of what you want to do, there will be options in terms of the topics. You'll be able to pick something that'll be in alignment. To the extent that you're less sure, like, and on what you want to do, you're not like at a disadvantage for not knowing. It's just that it's still just an opportunity to think about how to put together the different pieces of a proposal.
Other questions? All right. Well, thank you
keep
everyone
thinking
for
about
attending.
questions. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Dr. Timmer.
I was just gonna, keep thinking about questions that you run into as you're preparing. And then whether I see you this weekend or next weekend, we'll have, like I said, an opportunity to talk more. And so, yeah, but other than that, just be prepared and, remember it's all, you have this content already, you already you've learned all the things that you need to be successful. Yes, Suzanne.
Just, is on my mic's good.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for taking the time to, share all this stuff with us. And I was wondering, I know this will be recorded and sent to us, but will the slides be available as well so that we can take a more careful look at those?
Yes.
Thank you.
I think I can just post them into the chat and then everybody has them.
Yeah, I was going to
work? Can you
suggest
see
that,
them that
Dr.
way?
Timmer, is if you
Okay.
could if you had them both at the ready, you can just plop it in the chat. And then what'll happen, Suzanne, is you probably already know this, but Teams will take a couple minutes or an hour or whatever, and then the video will populate this chat as well. So that's where you grab it from.
there any other like logistical questions? Just to make sure everyone's understands how the day goes. You'll get the email from Anne in the morning and then email it back. If you run into any issues, you can email and we'll troubleshoot. Sorry, I'm trying to find the right.
Just one quick logistical, during
Yeah.
the course of the exam, if there is some type of issue that comes up, a question we need clarity on, who is the point of contact during the date of the exam?
Anne will be the point of contact. So
I think these are the right ones.
it's on Saturday, the 20th. If you have any issues, she's on alert, so she's checking her email throughout the day. And then if she needed to get a hold of us, she has our personal emails to our contacts, so she can sort of triage as necessary. We really don't have a lot of issues that come up. Most often the issues in terms of the actual administration of it is students that press up against that submission time of I think it's 6, right? 6 o'clock. So it's just giving yourself a little window beforehand to submit. Julia, is your hand up?
Hi, yes, I hope you can hear me. I have some children in the background. My question was regarding location. So this is to be done at our homes. I have a large family that lives in my home. So my question is, does Seton Hall have locations on campus where we can go to take it, or we just have to rely on our own locations?
There are private rooms you can reserve in the library. And so I know that's an option folks have used before. I know some folks who have a space in their school or office. Sometimes people will go there. You're not alone on that. But yeah, the library does have rooms. I cannot figure out how to get these to attach, so I think I'm just gonna have to email y'all. I don't know why it's not letting me add an attachment.
The only thing I would add to that though, Julie, and this is just where like the nut in me comes out, is that day is not the day to try something new. The worst thing in the world would be, the worst feeling too, is if you thought, oh, I'm going to go to the library, but you've never gone to the library on a Saturday morning and you discover like you can't get on campus or for whatever reason where you need to go. So having a big family, never having quiet in the household, I understand the need to go somewhere else. If you think the library is the space you want to go to, you can email Dr. Timmer or I or Ann early or somebody from the library just to make sure those plans are going to work out. So it's sort of a measure twice, cut once situation.
I don't know. I can't figure this out. It might be something with external attendees. I'm getting an error message. I will make sure that I will email these so that everybody has these slides. Sorry, I can't figure out how to put it in the chat. I don't know what Teams is doing to me.
I've had that error message before.
It's like, I don't know what it is. It's new to me, but that's okay. But I will email y'all and actually I'll also probably just post them in our course Canvas pages, which somebody's asked me about earlier, are not live yet, but they will be if not tomorrow, hopefully within the next, for the folks who I see this weekend, they should be up tomorrow, I think. But
all right, everyone. Well, thank you. See everyone later. Good